Okay, so this story is called The Warrior Leader. After Moses died, God gave his people a new leader. His name was Joshua. We know a Joshua, don't we? Do we know a Josh?
No, we don't.
Who's that?
Uncle Josh.
Uncle Josh, my brother, yeah. Joshua means the Lord saves. Joshua is going to lead God's people into the special land God had promised to give them. By this time, God's people had been wandering around in that baking desert for 40 years. Could you imagine being stuck in a desert for 40 years? It's a long time.
That's
So,
as old as Mom.
That's as old as Mom. Oh boy. So you can imagine how sick they were of sand and anything yellow and tense and walking and being hot. Ugh. That would be exhausting. And how happy they were to reach the edge of the desert and to see their beautiful new home right there in front of them, all cool and green and lovely. There was only one problem: Jericho. Now, Jericho was a city. See this? Look at that. What does it look like to you?
It looks like a fortress.
Like a fortress, exactly.
A few bunch of soldiers on the border.
A lot of soldiers there, too. Yeah, Jericho
Why are
was...
there flags?
Let's find out. Jericho was a city, but it wasn't just any old city. It was a fortress, and it stopped anyone from getting into the land. The people looked at Jericho, at the big, giant, scary walls around it, at the tall, towering ramparts, at the heavy iron gates bolted shut. And then they looked at each other. Ugh, how are we going to get in?
Wait, let me... Oh, there's the gate.
There's the gate. These are called ramparts up here.
Why?
It's where the soldiers hang out. Ooh, look at this. What could they do? No one knew, but God knew. And God told Joshua what to do. But Joshua must have looked surprised, because it was a very odd battle plan indeed, as we'll soon find out. Then God made his people a promise.
What did it say as we're going to find out?
Well, we're going to hear the rest of the story. Then God made his people a promise. I will always be with you, and I will never, ever leave you. If you do what I say, your lives in the new land will be happy and everything will go well. So Joshua gathered his army together. They had their swords and spears and shields. They were ready to fight.
Was Joshua a person or the city?
Joshua is a person. He's the leader of this army outside.
I think he's that guy right
That guy up there? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, he's all by himself.
So they had everything. They were ready to fight. But the plan wasn't about fighting. It was about trusting and doing what God said. Joshua's army went marching. Marching around the city, day after day after day. They're just too scared to fight, the people in Jericho said. But they were wrong. God's people weren't scared. They were waiting for God to tell them what to do next. On the seventh day, God told his people to march around the city not once, but 7 times. Then God told everyone to make as much noise as they could. Has anyone ever told you to make as much noise as you possibly can? Well, imagine that noise and add 39,999 other people making that noise too. You get the idea. It'd be pretty dang loud. Are you guys ever noisy? No, you're never noisy. Oh, you think you are?
Yeah, sometimes we're noisy. Remember we scream?
Sometimes you're noisy, sometimes you scream. That's true. And as it turned out, stone splitting too, because the huge, strong walls of Jericho crumbled to the ground with all that noise, as if they were made of sand. Jericho vanished in a great cloud of dust.
Like the witch in Mulan, right?
Like the witch in Mulan just crumbled into dust.
Yeah.
So it was that God's people entered their new home, and they didn't have to fight to get in. They only had to walk. Joshua said, God has brought you safely here. Now will you do what God says? Everyone said, yeah, we promise. Only God can make your hearts happy, Joshua said. So don't pray to pretend gods. No, they said, never. Well, I'm afraid they didn't keep their promise. They didn't do what God said, and many years later, just as God warned them, things would go badly for God's people. They would lose their home. Enemies would capture them and take them off as slaves, and God's people would scatter into many different lands. But God's plan was still working. One day, he would give his people another leader and another home. But this home, no one could ever take from them. Pretty interesting, huh? Did you ever imagine that a battle plan would just involve walking around your enemy and not having to fight them? It's pretty crazy. Not what an army usually does, right?
Yeah.
That sounds a lot safer, though. If I were in the army, I would rather just walk than fight. What do you think?
Because if you went inside the battle and if you attacked them, they would attack back and hurt you.
If you attack them, then they attack back and they hurt you. Yeah.
And if you attack them, then that's hurting them.
Yeah. That's not very nice. And God said all you need to do is just walk around and the walls will
Not good
crumble
to
down.
kill people.
Right. Not good to kill people.
That was one of God's rules from in 10 Ways to Be Perfect.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, from that other story. Yeah.
Yeah, oh wait, that wasn't.
Yeah. It's back there somewhere. Oh. There we go. Let's stick with this one for now.
Yeah.
Oh.
10 Ways to Be Perfect.
Yeah. Let's stick. So the warrior leader, what was his name again?
Joshua.
Joshua. All right. So that's the story of Joshua and the Battle of Jericho. That wasn't really even a battle.